Hi, I'm Marcel with Guaranteed Rate, and Holly Haven with Keller Williams just stopped in and actually had some questions with some clients that she's currently working with.
Yeah, absolutely. So this comes up pretty often, actually. I have clients with quite a bit of equity in their current home, and they really just want to know their options. They don't want two mortgages. They kind of want to know the best way to go about getting out of one home and getting into the next home.
Absolutely. And in fact, we see a lot of people in that exact position right now because, as homes have appreciated really quite substantially over the past year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, there's a lot of people that are out there that right now have so much equity in their homes, and now they're in a position to where they want to sell their home, but they really don't understand what are going to be my options to actually move forward, sell my property, and then how does that equity get transferred? And in fact, there's a couple different ways to do that. So typically with clients, what we end up doing is the first and easiest way is obviously if it can be a concurrent closing to where they end up selling their home first,
Right.
have some of that equity, and then close on the home they're going to be purchasing in a very short time frame. And we do that through what's called a seller's temporary residential leaseback agreement.
Right.
So what can end up happening is, let's say that you have a buyer, they want to buy a house. They can go ahead and close on that house to where the seller now has the proceeds, and as the seller, they can actually retain that house for sometimes a week, 15 days. We can actually go all the way out to 30 days to where they can retain that house. And what in essence they're truly doing is they're then leasing that house back from the buyer. And so the buyer is now actually the owner of the property. So the seller then has those proceeds and they can use that to then go out and purchase another property. So that's the easiest way. However, that's not always likely. Sometimes things really don't work that efficiently. And so people do kind of have to look at other options when they're doing that.
Right.
So some other options are sometimes people will actually go out and purchase a house and create a two lien situation to where they'll end up having, let's say, first lien of, let's just say $100,000, for example, if they're purchasing a $200,000 home. Then they'll do a second lien of, let's say, whatever they're wanting to take from their equity of the home they're selling and then put down. So let's say that they create a second lien of $70,000. Now, typically, you wouldn't end up having a first lien of $100,000 and then a big second lien of $70,000 unless you plan on paying off that second lien very quickly.
Right.
And so what they'll do is they'll actually purchase the new home, have two liens, have the second lien created to where they can then take the equity from the sale of the home that they're selling and then pay off that second lien whenever their home sells. So
Yeah, that's a really great idea that I'm sure not a lot of sellers really would even think about, and not a lot of realtors.
Absolutely.
We do a lot of the temporary lease back, but I love
Sure.
the second loan idea.
Absolutely. And so that is, oops, sorry about that. I guess it is real life, and sometimes phones do ring, but
It's good to have your phone ringing.
absolutely. So yes, the second lien is certainly going to end up being an option. And what's nice too is that if we plan the closing correctly, meaning that if someone closes on, let's say, November 1st, for example, they don't have a payment due all of November.
Right.
And they don't have a payment due all of December. So in essence, they can be in a position to where they don't have that payment due on their home until January 1st, which can be 60 days from the time that they actually purchase. And so with that, it gives them a tremendous amount of time to actually get their home sold. So there's definitely going to be some flexibility with that option. There is another option that's out there as well, which is called a recast. Have you heard about a recast at all? Are you familiar with it?
Actually, this is new to me. So.
Okay, so what a recast is there are a lot of investors out there that'll actually allow you to do something called a recast, which means that, let's say you set up an initial mortgage and it ends up being, let's just say, a $200,000 mortgage. And it has its interest rate and it's set up on a 30-year term. Well, what you can do with some investors is you can actually say, okay, well, I know I've only made 2 payments on this property, but I want to go ahead and put down $50,000, $60,000, and the mortgage servicer may allow you to actually recast your principal and interest payment on that lesser amount. So if you start with a $200,000 mortgage, then you recast, now all of a sudden you're actually lowering the principal and interest without having to do a refinance at all.
Oh, wow. That's a great option. How would you know in advance
Great
that was
question.
possible.
So every investor is going to end up having different guidelines on that. So with guaranteed rate, we basically look at what all of the investor guidelines are, and we can explain those guidelines to consumers. There is some risk, though, however, in that let's suppose that we look at a specific investor and they tell us that yes, we absolutely allow recasts, and the amount needed is going to be $30,000 as a minimum. And then a client gets into that. All of a sudden the investor changes that and says, no, we actually are now going to need $50,000. So investor guidelines don't change that often, but I do like to preface any client that's wanting to do this and just warn them, hey, there is a possibility that the servicer may end up changing their rules after you're with them. And so with that, just kind of be wary. But with most of the investors right now, we can definitely look at exactly what the investor guidelines are, what the options are, and then place them with an investor that works within the recast that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, those are all great options. I had not heard of a recast, so thank you for explaining that.
Absolutely. So definitely, if you do have clients that are in the market and they're in a position to where they are trying to sell a house that they have considerable equity in, there are all sorts of options for them. The key is really to talk to a loan officer that does have access to multiple different investors, and then see exactly, is it going to be possible to do a simultaneous closing? Can you do a first lien and a second lien? Is a recast going to be a possibility? There's certainly ways to do that, and by asking enough questions, you're certainly going to get some answers and some solutions for buying that next home.
Yeah, well, this is why it's so important to have a reputable and knowledgeable lender kind of on your side as well, because as everybody just saw, I had never heard what a recast was because I'm not in the mortgage industry, but
Sure.
keep guys like you on my side. So
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for stopping in. Again, Marcel with Guaranteed Rate, 972-672-3246. And
yeah, Holly Haven with Holly Haven Homes and Keller Williams.
sounds good. Well, have a great day and call us if you need us.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.